Hello again. First of all, I want to give myself a round of applause for the amount of videos I've been making. I normally don't make videos this often, but I've been having a lot of fun talking about all of this stuff, and I'm really glad that I've been seeing you guys give me some feedback and, talk about it and stuff like that. It's been very cool seeing that. So, I made a post last night. There was a post on Twitter that said, give a piece of lore of yourself that regarded Forsaken. And I'd quote retweeted talking about that I was the original creator, and it was originally called Damnation, and this is like my project and whatnot. And the tweet blew up. It's still blowing up as we speak. 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, July 22nd. So, yeah, the tweet is blowing up like crazy, and I had quote retweeted the post where I quote retweeted saying that I was the owner, and I asked if people wanted me to make a video talking about what my original visions were for Forsaken. So, all of you guys said yes. There were some people who said they don't know because they're worried that they'll like my vision more. But, yeah. So I wanted to make this video that talks about what my visions were for the game, and some people also wanted to know what changes I would make to Forsaken present day. So, I thought I'd talk about a few of those things. I'm not going to cover everything because I don't want this video to be very long. So I made a little list of bullet points for both of those categories that I'm going to cover, and not try to go through it too quickly, but also not try to drone on too long on one topic. So why don't we just get right into this? So first I'm going to talk about what my visions for Damnation were. I definitely do feel like how Forsaken is now definitely does rival my previous vision for the game in many different ways. I, first of all, wanted this to be a horror game. That's what the original intention of this was. The entire reason I came up with the idea for the game was because I noticed that at the time, before Roblox horror asymmetrical games became so popular, the only games we really had were Pillar Chase 2 and then some of the old ones that nobody really played. There was also Devil's Dawn, but that one had not come out at the time and is still not out now. But those games, I had noticed, primarily focused on like creepypastas, so it was just like worldwide media horror, like Baldi and Jeff the Killer and Ao Oni, those types of guys. They kind of did that type of roster. So I wanted to take a different approach because I was kind of surprised nobody did this. I wanted to make an asymmetrical horror game that focused primarily on Roblox horror, because there are a lot of Roblox horror games that have iconic characters that I believe have left an impact on Roblox's horror genre, like Cool Killer, The Stalker, Bloody Mary, Lightbulb, if you guys remember that game Zeeker's made, The Glitch, that Zack Attack game. Characters like that, I feel, really left an impact on Roblox's horror genre, and they just kind of were left in the shadows. So I wanted to make a game that shed some light onto them while also having my own fair share of original characters, and it was honestly really exciting. I had really not thought of adding any hackers or exploiters. I definitely did think of a few, but I feel as now that's like the general expectations for future characters, and that's kind of where I stray away from my vision there. Some of the examples that were actually planned to be added that I'd put in the early roster were ones like Figure, Sonic.exe, Cool Killer, The Stalker, etc. I will be getting back into the topic of Sonic.exe and Figure, so expect those two to come back later on down this video. But yeah, it was going to be guys like that. Not just those kinds of characters though, because I know that Figure and Sonic.exe are from different pieces of media, but there was going to be more Roblox horror, as I said. We had also had permission, I had gained permission to use these characters way back in early dev, like before the game was even out, and unfortunately nothing got done with those permissions. We had permission to use Springtrap and the Basement Hunt Endoskeleton from FNAF Co-op, which was insane, by the way. I don't know if Springtrap was necessarily going to get added, but I wanted to add the Basement Hunt Endoskeleton because I actually had a plan for his ability, and I know that he does look really goofy, but I planned to make him a really neat killer. He was going to be like Dead by Daylight's Hillbilly, where he had an overdrive ability. The reason I wanted to give him that was because if you've ever played the Basement Hunt game mode in FNAF Co-op, you will notice that the Basement Hunt Endoskeleton is fast as fuck. Like, he's crazy fucking fast. So, I thought that him having this overdrive-like ability and being a killer that thrives on mobility would be a very suitable ability. We also had permissions to use the minus elevation entities. A friend of mine named Trebla had gotten permissions to use identity fraud, and there were probably some other games that we got permissions to use their characters, and I just forgot what they were. But yeah, I wanted to use characters like that to really give the game a big variety of killers. Like, you know, I really thought that it would bring a smile to a lot of people's faces seeing these killers that were sort of left in the dark in the Roblox horror genre, and, you know, coming up and, you know, getting their light, getting their spotlight. The reason I primarily chose the Basement Hunt Endoskeleton is because he's not, like, from anything. He's an exclusive entity to FNAF Co-op. So I mainly wanted him because he's kind of an original thing. And it would have been neat to, you know, have him in the game. So I wanted Basement Hunt Endoskeleton in particular because it would have shed some light on that character and also shed some light on FNAF Co-op. But, you know, none of that unfortunately happened. As for the music, I wanted the music to have a much more dark and gloomy tone, which I definitely think it did a pretty good job at having during the early stages of the game. Because, if you remember the lore of the game, I know that, like, the lore is not exactly public, but the lore is sort of resemblant to Dead by Daylight in terms of the trials, in quotations. Survivors and killers are eternally trapped in a game of life or death by the Spectre. And, you know, considering we, the player, know of their fate, we know that their lives are fairly miserable. Which is why I think the music should take a much more dark and scary approach, since being trapped in an inescapable realm where you're constantly evading death is pretty terrifying. So I would kind of want the music to capture that. I feel like the music is too upbeat, and it kind of focuses more on sounding catchy than it does scary. And I'm gonna get more into that later. I just am kind of going down this list real quick, and then I'll like kind of talk about it more as we go. I definitely wanted it a much more appealing to the eye shop as well. I'm not gonna lie, the current in-game shop in my opinion looks fairly lackluster, and it also kind of looks a bit rushed. I'd made a UI overhaul concept with the assistance of my friend Mono, and we organized it a lot better, and in my opinion it was much sweeter eye candy. And it also allowed users to have a 3D view of skins, which would mean they'd actually be able to see how the skin looks in-game, instead of it only being a render that shows a part of the skin's appearance. Because I remember this one situation with Two Time specifically, where there was a skin made for them, where the render looked completely different compared to the skin. And I feel that conflict could maybe, you know, happen more than once. So, you know, having a 3D view of the skins would be pretty nice. The reason that didn't happen was because it was allegedly too difficult to code. I'm not going to name who said that, but they know who they are. And because of that, the shop UI overhaul didn't exactly come to light, because apparently a 3D view of skins was too difficult, even though many skins have their viewport stuff that is not too difficult to do. Like, I don't know, Nico's Next Spots, Pillar Chase 2, Something Evil Will Happen, Break In and Steal Things has viewport stuff with the emotes, even Forsaken itself has the viewport stuff with the emotes. Viewport stuff is not that hard to work with. That was just kind of a cop-out excuse during early dev to not add that. But I'm not gonna rant about that stupidity. Let's keep moving. As I had said, you know, at the start, I wanted to add many more Roblox horror games to Damnation to not only make it really interesting seeing these iconic horror characters all in one setting, but, you know, again, to shed some light on underrated Roblox horror. I don't mind Hackers and Myths, but truthfully, I think it gets really redundant. And, you know, with how I've seen the community behave at times, it really feels like that's all they want now, and they could care less about Roblox horror. I don't know if I'm like schizophrenic and I just saw something and I can't remember it now, but I remember that there were so many people in the Forsaken community in particular that just threw unneeded hatred at Cool Killer specifically. And then when I made a quote retweet of, I forgot who it was, they made like a render of all the killers in a waiting room, and I pointed out how Cool Killer and Stalker weren't there, and I said that they were in this crap heap. Everybody was like, what? No, not Cool Killer and Stalker, I want them back, please. And I was like, you guys just did a full-on 180 now that I tell you that they're gone. And I don't even know. It was so confusing to see. Don't believe that quote retweet, by the way, that I made. Don't believe that. just don't believe it. I just thought it was funny to say because they weren't in either renders. But, yeah, everybody just all of a sudden gave a shit when I said that those two were gone. Even though I remember Cool Killer getting a lot of hate for no reason. But, God, almost went on another rant again. I wanted the big dogs, like Chain, Lightbulb, Bear. Bear we sadly got declined, but, you know, I wanted Bear. 3008. The list goes on. Dude, I even wanted Rainbow Friends, and I was going to make it work in the fucking game. I wanted Rainbow Friends. That's how creative I was and how prepared I was to give a good vision for this game. Because I know when you hear that, you're like, what the fuck were they thinking, wanting Rainbow Friends in the game? Trust me, if you saw my vision, and my vision came to light, you would love blue. Oh, you would love blue. You could trust me on that. You would love blue. But anyways, before Roblox asymmetricals had become so popular, again, the only games I knew of were Pillar Chase 2 and Devil's Dawn. Two asymmetrical horror games that focused primarily on adding creepypastas. Nobody had thought of adding Roblox Horror to an asymmetrical horror game, and it was going to be awesome to see Roblox Horror be the primary roster of Damnation, with also, you know, some original characters. Definitely think that my vision kind of strayed away, because it seems that they were more focused on hackers and, you know, exploiters and myths, which, you know, was kind of unfortunate, but life goes on, doesn't it? Life goes on. But yeah, skins. Oh, sweet skins. Skins were going to be in this game, but they were not going to take the route that they took at all. There would still be reference skins, but they would be accurate to the character's source material. Like, let's take Jason, for example. Let's say I gave Jason a skin that uses the updated version of the Roblox hockey mask. If you don't remember, Roblox had changed that hat's appearance to look like fucking shit. So now, if you were somebody who bought it because you wanted a top-notch Jason cosplay, well, it's too late now. You're fucked, dude. But Roblox had changed that hat due to copyright. And now it looks ugly, and it looks like bootleg. Now, if you know anything about the Friday the 13th movies, then you know that there is a Part 5 Jason known as Roy Burns. He is a mimic of Jason, and is so mentally snapped that he believes he himself is Jason. So that would have been a great skin to make for Jason, using the new version of the hockey mask that just looks like a shitty bootleg, and it's also still accurate to Jason's source material. It's not just like a random character that's being given to Jason because they, like, both share the same weapons. Like, you know, that's just kind of strange to me. Like, let's say that I go outside, I'm holding a machete, and I take a photo of myself holding a machete, it blows up on Twitter and everyone sees it, and they're like, this guy's holding a machete, and Jason's holding a machete. This is a skin idea right here. That type of shit is what I don't fuck with. I'm also really hoping that my noise suppression is not fucking up how I sound in this video, because I'm seeing the line go, like, straight to red, and if I'm ear raping this whole time, I'm gonna cry. But anyways, I wanted more original characters in the game as well. If you didn't know this, then here's a little interesting piece of trivia for you. I came up with Cataclysm, Charlatan, and Bomber. Those three are characters that I concepted. I said I wanted a character based off of the Weather Machine from NDS. I said I wanted a killer themed off of Epic Minigames. And I said I wanted a Super Bomb Survival killer. Major credits to I Draw Things in Cacklebox for bringing those designs to life, because I really do like them. I definitely would have made some adjustments to Bomber specifically, because I didn't hate his design, but it just felt a little strange to me, and it didn't really give a pyromaniac vibe in my eyes. That's kind of what I imagined him as, this crazed pyromaniac that just is batshit crazy. And he definitely did look crazy, but it didn't really capture my crazy, if that makes sense. But as for Charlatan and Cataclysm, I love their designs, especially Cataclysm. Cataclysm is, he is chef's kiss. He's beautiful. I love Cataclysm. I am so glad that I came up with that idea, and I had I Draw Things by my side to help me bring it to life. If you're watching this video, genuinely thank you. It's like my favorite design ever. And the ability I'd concepted for Cataclysm was also really fun. I don't know if I should say it or not, because who knows if it'll get used or not, I don't know. But what I will say is, Cataclysm was going to be a killer that I wanted to be customizable. Like, he was going to be a customizable killer, where you got to kind of workshop with his abilities. He had 3 different choices for each ability slot, which would mean that he'd be a very interesting killer to go against, because you'd have to find out what the player is running. You know, you're testing all these different abilities and finding out which one works good with which. And I feel like that would really enhance the creativity with these killers and make the player experience so much more enjoyable, because it's not the same thing. You might be going against Cataclysm 5 times in a row, but it might not be the same Cataclysm. They could be running different things, you know? Like stuff like that. I thought that would be really neat. I had also wanted the same thing for Zombie King. If I can find the image, I had planned for Zombie King to be a fusion of 2 Roblox zombie games. He was a fusion of Police vs. Zombies, because that's one of the big Roblox games where Zombie King is a primary antagonist, and I was going to combine him with Build to Survive the Zombies. Now, the way it was going to work was, imagine Nemesis from Dead by Daylight a little bit. You know, of course, all these killers have a little bit of inspo from a Dead by Daylight killer, because you can't lie, DVD does a pretty good job with some clever abilities. So, why I say Nemesis is because Zombie King was also going to have that sort of customization. Zombie King was going to be able to choose the 2 minions he wanted to spawn in with him at each trial. Now, obviously, these minions could be killed by, say, a Shedletsky sword, or a chance gun, or a 2-time dagger, or a guest punch. They would be able to be killed by those attacks, so they're not that broken. And, of course, you know, they would still respawn, but they could be killed, so, you know, they'd be gone for, like, a good 25-30 seconds, so you don't have to worry about them. And the zombies that Zombie King was going to get to choose from were the roster of Build to Survive the Zombies. So like the Giant Zombie, the Ice Zombie, the Lava Zombie, the Saw Zombie, the Ghost Zombie, and the regular zombie. I think I forgot one, I don't know. But they were all going to function in different ways. Ice zombies would, you know, slow you down. Lava zombies would burn you. Ghost zombies would probably be slower but harder to see. Giant zombies would be slow but be really annoying and probably do a lot of damage if they hit you. You know, stuff like that. And I think that would have been really neat. They would have also been like proxy characters. It wouldn't be one where like it always sees where somebody is and is chasing them. It would be when they see a survivor within a certain vicinity. And I think that that would have been really neat. Because again, you're doing this customization to find out what zombies work well together. So like, let's say an ice zombie and a ghost zombie. The ice zombie hits the player, so they're slowed down by the ice effect, and that allows the ghost zombie to catch up due to, you know, it's, again, being slower because it's more translucent. It's not as easy to see. So stuff like that, I think, would be really neat to see players workshop what works best with this killer and have an overall really enjoyable experience, you know, doing all these crazy things with killers. Because then you would see videos on YouTube talking about, like, this is a really good build for Zombie King. This is a really good build for Cataclysm. That customizability, I really feel like would enhance the gameplay and just, again, make it all the more fun and the killer all the more worth buying. Because then it makes going against these killers a different experience each time. You're not just feeling like you're going against the same guy each time and you can predict his abilities. You have to see what they're running and know how to deal with it. So it really has more strategy to it, both on the survivor and killer side. And I think that that would have been really fun to see. Sadly, I don't think either of those things will ever come to light, but that was the vision I had had for Cataclysm and Zombie King in particular. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty much a good summary of like what my vision was for Damnation. There obviously is a lot more, but I've already talked about this for 20 minutes, and I kind of want to move on now because I really don't want this video to be too long. If you have any questions regarding anything that I might have not addressed and what my vision for the game was, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I am more than welcome to answering them, and, you know, like wondering what questions you guys have about my vision. I would more than happily, you know, talk about it. But yeah, I think now people were asking when I had asked if I should make this video, will I also be talking about what changes I would make to present day Forsaken? And I said, sure. So that's what I want to get into now. I want to talk about some changes that I would make to Forsaken. There might be a little bit of a sensitive topic warning here. I don't know if this is too sensitive or not, so I guess I'll just put one here. But yeah. So, some of the changes I would make right now is I would redo 2x design completely. This is a little bit of a sensitive topic, I think. 2x design, and this is not throwing any shade to anybody, because, you know, nobody knew this would happen, but it happened, so now I would change it. 2x design has resulted in some spawnism cultists. It's become a major epidemic where a brief surplus of the audience has treated the spawn cult and 2x lore like it's a real thing, and I do find that to be very, very concerning. So I honestly would be making a revamped design for 2x ASAP because I don't want that stuff, you know, happening anymore. I would want like every trace of 2-time and 2-time's lore to be erased, because the lore has caused a really bad influence, and you know, it's frankly dangerous. So that's one of the changes I would do right now, is 2-time really just, you know, getting a major overhaul. I would still make sure that the character has some very neat lore, and probably something that still ties into the double life, but I don't think I would make it cult related, because so far from what I've seen, not just with Forsaken, but other games that have done some cult related lore, it never ends well. If you have any like cult things in your game, just maybe don't do it. Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the first things I would do, is I would definitely adjust 2-time. Another thing I would do is I would retcon Cool Kid. I don't know why Cool Kid was made into a 10-year-old. I find that lore and that decision very, very confusing, because I didn't really know much about Cool Kid pre-Forsaken, but I did know of his existence. I just didn't know much about him, but I at least knew that he was a group of hackers. Keyword group. And to make him just like a 10-year-old that basically has pyrovision is just like, I don't know, it just doesn't really feel like a very good change to me. I don't really like that change, and it's kind of caused me to not really like Cool Kid as a character, unfortunately. So I really wouldn't have done that. I would have still kept him loyal to his roots, while, you know, making it make sense as to why, you know, well, multiple people are in Team Cool Kid, why only one Cool Kid is in the game, you know? Like, make it make sense. Because, again, I feel like making him a 10-year-old was a very strange decision, and yeah, I would just undo that. Sonic.exe, truthfully, would have been one of the first killers to arrive, rather than just being a killer in testing that just went to like randomly dying, because I don't really know how this happened. And I know that some people will probably say in the comments, oh, well, Sonic.exe would probably have to get removed because of the Sonic.exe the disaster drama. I don't really know what the hell happened with that, but I mean, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, I don't know. But I don't know why Sonic.exe didn't come out during early dev. I don't know why he was a dev killer, because he was one of the first killers that got worked on, and it's so confusing to me on how he went from being one of the first to get worked on to just sitting in the dev exclusive dump. Like, what happened? We could have had 5 killers, truthfully, because Sonic.exe was basically done. We could have had 1X, Cool Kid, John Doe, Jason, and Sonic.exe during the game's release, but we only had 4, because Sonic.exe was like, you know what? I'm not fucking interested. I'm gonna sit behind a higher up padlock, and people can give myself to them with admin commands. So yeah, Sonic.exe present day probably wouldn't be a thing anymore, though. I don't really know, because again, I don't know much about that situation. I'd gotten told that it was a person impersonating GameFam or something. I don't know how the fuck that happened, but I can assume that Sonic.exe wouldn't be here now due to that DMCA stuff, but I think that he still would have been there during, you know, the game's first release, because again, him not being there was just kind of strange to me. The music identity would be a bit more consistent. I don't dislike the current in-game music, but I definitely think it captures a more intense and upbeat vibe, rather than a doom is upon you, you're being chased and about to die vibe. Like, I do think that some of the music is intense, but it's not intense in the fashion that it's scary, you know? And yeah, I definitely do wish that it was a bit more scary, because I don't know, I don't hate the music, I just, again, really wish it did a better job at capturing the horror tone, because right now it just doesn't really capture that at all, unfortunately. So yeah, I said maps would normally by default be encompassed in a dark fog, not a fog that like just swallows the map whole, but a fog that encompasses the distance, so each map can have a more horror-esque vibe. Because honestly, that alone is already one big good step to making this a horror game, because it's a lot scarier than you think. The uncertainty of where the killer is, rather than seeing them across the map at all times, and doing a gen while all you see around you is fog, but you know someone else is getting chased within the mist, but you don't know where it's happening. That shit's scary. That's scary. Like, uncertainty on where the killer is already scary enough. God forbid when a fucking stealth killer comes into the game. If there's dark fog and a stealth killer's in the game, Forsaken is a horror game. You will shit your pants. Like, it's not that hard to make this scarier, you know? Like, fog enough is scary. Just like, again, not seeing where the killer is at all times. And you have to be vigilant. That's already one good step to this being a horror game. And you want to stick together with people because you're scared. So I definitely would do that, like, on every map. Having this fog that, you know, doesn't let you see everything in the far distance. It's just, you're wondering what's happening. And you're scared to go within it, you know? That's the kind of thing I would do. I would also do a major purge on reference skins. As discussed in the Forsaken skin problem video, I worry for the game's skin identity. I know I never really elaborate on what I mean by that, but basically I don't want one of the main stickouts of the game to be, oh yeah, this is the game where you can play as Hatsune Miku and chase a TF2 engineer while Invincible charges into you and Cecil teleports to the other side of the map while Femtinel sits in the back and eats a burger. Reference skins wouldn't be prohibited, just toned down tremendously, and I'd honestly want them proofread before any progress starts on them. So like, somebody coming to me with the idea of the reference and then we discuss whether it actually fits the character or not. Because I think that there's a lot of references that don't exactly fit the characters they're given to. So I'd want to be able to proofread it before somebody starts on it. And then, you know, it has to get turned down. Because that would really suck, you know, making something and then it gets turned down because it doesn't fit. I wouldn't want that happening. Another thing I would add, survivor caps. This was another thing I talked about in a previous video of mine. But during the beginning of every match before the match officially begins, players would then choose the survivor they want to play for the round to prevent stacking. I, again, had mentioned this in my future concepts idea, and apparently people hated it, but I honestly can't really see why. It sometimes means you'd have to play a survivor you're unfamiliar with, which would allow you to potentially adapt to their gameplay and have multiple survivors you enjoy playing. And it would make teamwork a lot more vital now, since right now, in my opinion, teamwork isn't as vital as it should be. You could have two 1-3-7s just jumping the killer while the rest of the teammates are on the other side of the map emoting. But if stacking wasn't a thing, it'd be a different story. Every survivor would play their own individual role in ensuring the assistance of everyone else, outlasting the time and stopping the killer. And it'd be really cool to see every survivor have their own custom intro play upon selection as they, like, prepare for the trials. Like, shit, Shaletsky unsheaths his sword, Elliot, like, packs up his pizza, Guest 1337, like, does the thing doctors do where he, like, pulls his gloves. Shit like that, dude. Like, it would be cool to see them have intros and, like, they're all in a group getting ready for, you know, what's to come. I think that would be sick as fuck to see. And then the final thing I want to talk about in terms of changes. Map exclusive objectives. I know that this will most likely be an upcoming feature in the future, but it's still something that I would have done. It really feels odd to me, and I've said this multiple times, it feels odd seeing realistic generators planted into stud maps, because really the only place the generators actually fit in aesthetically is Horror Hotel. And aside from that, they're just kind of weirdly out of place, and it can be a bit of a lackluster puzzle after doing it so many times, because it's on every map. Each map having an exclusive objective, I think, would be a much more enjoyable experience, because it would enhance the gameplay on both ends, since there would be a different task needing to be accomplished for each place. It would be, you know, a different experience each time per map. And I'd also plan to redo the generator model for stud-specific maps so it would fit with the atmosphere a bit better. The stud generator's appearance was done, but it just never really got added. That's not important. It's just a quality of life thing I thought I'd talk about. But I think it would be really neat for maps to have exclusive objectives, because then again, not only is teamwork already vital because each survivor plays their own role without stacking existing, but you guys have to do a different thing. Like, some survivors might be better for this objective, but then other survivors might be better for that objective. It makes teamwork so much more important, and that's what I really want. These dudes are all trapped inside of a trial with one another, and while they might not all know each other very well, they know that they're all on the same team. They don't want to get killed, they want to survive, and they're going to work together to find out how to do it. That is exactly what the survivors would be doing. They want to work together and they want to live. So That's the type of gameplay I'd want this to have. In every horror movie, you just see, you know, it's a bunch of dumb white people tripping all over shit and dying. But not the case here. It's like, imagine The Thing. Remember that movie? If you remember The Thing, it wasn't your average stereotypical horror movie. They found out that something is killing each of them. This evil alien is in the facility. They don't know who it is or who it's shapeshifted as. And they're all individually working together, thinking of smart strategic methods to stop it. That's what I want this game to be. Strategic ways of stopping the killer and getting what you need to get to survive. That is what I hope to see in the future. And if not, well, that's what my vision was for the game's future. That's really all I wanted to talk about now. That's a good section of my bullet points. Because again, this is 35 fucking minutes. But to end this off, I don't hate nor do I like the state Forsaken is in right now. I think that it's in a very middle ground state. But I'm not pessimistic on it. I do definitely think that improvements can be made and will be made, and I'm excited to see what will come in the game's future. I do hope that maybe some of the things that I listed in terms of the changes or shit, maybe even my vision could come to light. But if not, that's okay. I just hope that the game could take a positive route, and I really do wish the best for Hitoko and Basil. Hitoko and Basil, if either of you are reading this, what's up? Hi. Hi. But I do really, like, in the end, I hope the best for this game, and I hope to see a lot of improvements. So, yeah, that's just really what I wanted to talk about. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. I have so much fucking stuttering to edit out, because at the one part, where was it? Being trapped in an inescapable realm. In an inescapable.